Hi there, me again. I have a mustache now. In today's video, we're going to be going to the East Coast to a little place called Tybee Island, Georgia, and we're going to be testing out a really cool and rare film stock called Koji 125T by Atlanta Film Co. So let's hit the road. So the trip started, and Christina and I hit the road, and it didn't take long for me to find my first photo. This gas station has a cool alligator outside the front door, so first pick of the trip. To start the trip, I was using my Canon P and a partial roll of Fuji 400. Out of the almost 17 hours we would have to drive to get to Tybee Island, we made it 9 on the first day, stopping in Nashville, the home of country music, the Tennessee Titans, cats like the one that greeted us at our Airbnb, and Hattie B's, the best damn hot chicken sandwich place I've ever been to. After clogging my arteries with chicken grease, I figured I could finish this roll of Fuji 400 before we hit the road again. Don't park there. That's a tall old man. The second leg of the road trip was shorter than the first, but it felt longer, probably because of the building anticipation about being on the beach. Or maybe it was the torrential downpour in Savannah. Either way, we got there in one piece, and it was time to load this special roll of Koji 125T. Ooh, that's some cool packaging. So what is Koji 125T and where did I get it? Well, I was gifted this roll from Dylan at the Grain Garage on Instagram, so definitely go check his Instagram out and show him some love because he's a really cool dude and his photography is killer. Dylan has sent me some other cool things, some very cool things to try out and show you guys in videos, so that will be coming up very soon. And Dylan, I have not forgotten about you. Anything else that you've sent me that I need to be returning to you, I will get it back to you expeditiously the second I am done testing it. So what is Koji 125T? Well, Koji 125T is a film that Atlanta Film Co. came across from a cinematographer that gave it to them in a big cinema spool, and they had it cut down and repackaged into photographic canisters. But what it actually is FujiFilm Reala Super F-125 cinema film. I know, it's a long name. I've got a few notes about Fuji Reala Super F right here. So let me read you the deets. So FujiFilm Reala Super F was a cinema film that was made from 1999 to 2011, and it was a film that was used on movies such as Ratcatcher, Munich, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, and Punch Drunk Love. So I can't in really good conscience say it was a widely used cinema film for movies, but I think that's partially due to when it came out. It came out kind of during the height of the digital revolution, so filmmakers are probably either wanting to experiment with digital filmmaking to kind of push the boundaries of the medium, or they wanted to just stick with film stocks that they already knew how they looked and they knew how to work with them, such as Kodak's Vision 3 films. So it's a 125 ISO tungsten balanced film, and it's an ECN2 process film. So you can't use it really with your C41 chemicals unless I guess you want to cross-process it. But think you'd probably get the best results with ECN2 chemicals. So the characteristics this film is supposed to have is a very pronounced grain structure and a slight green cast in the highlights. So we'll test that out and see if that's an accurate description. And also, like I said, Atlanta Film Co. got this film from a cinematographer who had it cold stored basically since they got it. And Atlanta Film Co. recommends shooting the film at 100 ISO and metering for the shadows. So that's exactly what I plan to do. Now let's get out and test it. My plan was to follow those very instructions, and now that the film was loaded, it was time to explore the island. This first shot shows off the slightly green cast in the highlights. I really like this scene I found near our Airbnb. The sun perfectly highlights the surfboard on the tailgate, and the I Heart You sign is a cool little detail. All in all, a perfect scene for a beach bum like me. Our first evening was spent with some great tacos, and the next morning I got up around sunrise to wander around a little and get familiar with the island. Tybee is a very small and quiet island, nothing but sea breeze, ocean waves, and beautiful dunes. This photo has all three. I love how the windswept fence shows the energy of the constant sea breeze. Now this photo is good. I know, covered cars are a bit of a film photography trope, but covered golf carts? Now that's a different story altogether. The blues are also very pastel and cotton candy-like, which I enjoy. Across the street, I saw this Corvette with a dope paint job, but the paint isn't what makes this scene. It's the other elements like the palm tree and the sea turtle and seahorse on the fence that hint that there is a beach nearby. Next stop was the Royal Palms Motel. They have their own little maintenance truck with their logo, which is so damn cute. Nothing like modern cars to ruin film photos. Ice machine with a mind of its own, that's not creepy at all. Later, we had our first afternoon on the beach, and we were greeted by a Coast Guard helicopter. I thought they were just keeping an eye out for sharks or something, but then they dropped a guy in a wetsuit for this group of swimmers. He just talked to everybody though for a while and ascended back into the sky. Must have been some kind of training or something. I'll just have to pretend it was a harrowing rescue. After grilling ourselves in the sun, we had a nice dinner by the sea. Go anywhere.
Can't take another step.
My shoes might have been full of sand, but that didn't stop me from taking some evening dune photos. I really like these next two photos. There's something about the landscape, the soft evening light, and the shallow depth of field that make these scenes so magical. The next morning, I was off on another walk. This time, I didn't find much other than these two MGs, which are cool cars, and this photo shows how rich those Fuji greens are. After my walk, it was time for breakfast bagels with my nephew and his wife. What's your review? You gotta review it.
Oh, I got it good.
We gotta get a 1 bite. Oh, yes. Very nice. Very nice. Then we were on the road again for an afternoon in Savannah. Savannah has a massive cathedral we wanted to see, so we waited for service to get out, where I got a couple good photos, and then we toured the church. It was impressive. It definitely has the feel of the much older cathedrals in Europe. Next, we decided to compare alcoholic and non-alcoholic butterbeer before heading back to Tybee Island. The first thing I did once we got back to the island was, you guessed it, took another aimless walk and refused to ask for directions. I ended up on the Riverside of the island, which is interesting. It still has beaches, but it also has swampy areas that give it a different vibe. And this photo shows that. This might be my favorite photo from the trip. The swamp grass looks so soft and makes the deck stand out. The blown out highlights in the sky also make the scene look slightly surreal. With that partial frame, I've finished the roll of Koji 125T. I'll share my thoughts at the end, but for now, it was time to load another roll of Fuji 400 and keep shooting. I took this photo on both film stocks, and even though the Koji is only a partial frame, you can see it has deeper greens and less warmth overall. But it's still well suited for shooting in natural light, in my opinion. On the way back to the Airbnb, I took this photo of an empty lot that had some very nice light, and the sago palm in the center adds a nice tropical detail.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Dinner that night was at the Crabshack, where we had massive platters of seafood. This would not be an ideal time to develop a shellfish allergy. The next morning, I was up bright and early again. There's just something magical about dunes, man. They might be my favorite part of photographing beaches. This is probably my favorite photo from this walk. This is kind of a liminal space photo where the boardwalk kind of goes off into infinity. I also really like how you can just barely see the horizon and the sea over the right side of the railing. I've been been to a lot of beaches, and I plan to go to many more, so there will probably be some sort of printed work that comes out of these travels. Once I got back from my walk, it was time for another day at the beach. When we parked, I found this old VW bus filled with watermelons that read, "Hot Sushi's Happy Surf Camp" on the door. These compositions are a little cramped because there was a modern car parked next to the bus, but that's okay because when we got to the beach, we ran into Hot Sushi's surf camp and some friendly dolphins that just wanted to hang out. This is Mr. Hot Sushi himself, seconds before he jumped off his board and gave me a bear hug. He was a super cool dude. Tybee Island is also home to Georgia's oldest and tallest lighthouse, which isn't really saying much with their measly 110 miles of coastline, but we figured we should check it out anyways. There was also a farmer's market going on, so it was a 2 stones with 1 bird situation, or whatever the saying is. After checking out the lighthouse, it was time for dinner. Once we were done eating, we went for a walk, and I took this photo, which is such a timeless beach scene. We were also on the hunt for ice cream during our walk, and eventually we found some. We also found some probably cursed coastal Jumanji pieces. And just like that, our time at Tybee Island came to an end. So the next morning, we did what any experienced travelers would do. We started our road trip with coffee to make the trip a little bit more difficult. It wasn't far down the road that we had to stop so I could take more pictures. Back in Nashville, we kept the coffee flowing at Drugstore Coffee, which is in this beautiful hotel. We also stopped at Troll House Cottage in Nashville because Christina wanted tea, and it was a very cute place to have a tea party that I could ruin with coffee. On our way to Tybee Island, I took note of some interesting things I saw so I could photograph them on the way back, which I highly recommend doing. My favorite stop was this Macy's in Fairview Heights, Illinois that had an interesting roof. These photos turned out decent. I cropped this one to the CinemaScope aspect ratio, which fits the scene really well. Having little places to stop on your way back from a trip is a good way to keep the adventure going and keep the existential dread of going back to real life at bay. Anyways, that's all I've got. Now let's talk a little bit more about Koji 125T. So, now that I've shot the Koji 125T, what do I think of this cinema film stock from the past? Well, I think it's honestly a really unique looking film. The grain is very pronounced, and honestly, I love it. I've come across films before where the grain is pretty chunky, or maybe clumpy is a better way of describing it, and I don't really like that. But with this film, it really kind of seems to add detail and make it seem a little bit sharper, which is nice. Also, that green cast in the highlights, when paired with the really deep, rich Fuji greens that you get with pretty much all of the other Fujifilm stocks, makes for a very unique and pleasing look. So when I scanned the film, I was pretty surprised that it was so punchy. I was expecting it to be a much flatter looking film since it's a cinema film, and the highlights were pretty blown out from the start. Now, it is easy to bring the detail back from the highlights, but they start out pretty blown out when you get your scans, and that was kind of surprising to me. And that might just be because it's been cold stored and it's an expired film, but yeah, it was more punchy than I was expecting. So to scan these photos, I used my Epson V600 back here in Silverfast, and for most of the photos, I didn't add a film profile because they don't have the Reala Super F profile on Silverfast. But for a couple of photos, I did add the regular Reala profile, and that just kind of punched up the look that the film already had. And for a couple of shots, like the ones at the church, I actually used the Fuji NHG2 800 profile because I needed a little bit more of a regular white balance. So let's talk about price and value for this film. So Atlanta Film Co. sold this film for $12.99 a roll, and I think that's fair. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay for that one particular roll that I shot because Dylan from the Grain Garage kindly sent the roll to me. But I did use Atlanta Film Co. for development. Now, I didn't get any prints and I didn't get any scans from them. I just got them to develop it in their ECN2 process and send it back to me. So I sent the film to them via USPS, which cost me about $5, and then their development costs and their return shipping costs another $15. So when you add it all together, you get a whopping $32 or $33 a roll price tag. And that is a hard pill to swallow, because I do a lot of my own film developing when it comes to C41, so it usually costs me a lot less than that to get my results. But I want to say that Atlanta Film Co.'s prices are completely fair. They should be charging about what they're charging for their development, and I think the price per roll is fine because it's a rare film stock that we're probably never going to see again. So I think $12.99 is a perfectly fair price for the film. Now, would I use it for everything? I don't think so. I think it's a great, fun experiment if you want to try something new, but I really can't say that it's a feasible thing to use consistently. So, sadly, at the time of recording this video, Atlanta Film Co. has sold out of that batch of Fuji Reala Super F, and Koji 125T is no more. So if you do want to try that film out, you're going to have to buy it online somewhere from somebody reselling it, which might add to the already pretty high price tag. But if Atlanta Film Co. does end up coming across more rare films that have been well stored, I would be really game to try them out. So that's about all I have for this video. Again, big thanks to Dylan from the Grain Garage for sending me the film. Definitely check his Instagram down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye now.